Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Iron Forest. Iron Forest is brought to you by Brain Games Publishing. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and games generally run about 30 minutes. Iron Forest takes place in a fantastical land called Nemus. While many clans have called this land home for as long as they can remember, they know they were not the first to live here. On the edge of Nemus lies a place the clans call Iron Forest, filled with strange-looking structures and creations. Upon deeper exploration, the animal clans discovered incredible technology that they quickly learned how to use, creating their own amazing machines. However, one day the Iron Forest sprang to life and rose into the sky, building machines of their own. This Iron Force has one objective: to take back the technology stolen from them. Now, animal clans must fight back to protect their homeland. Iron Forest is a flicking game where players will split into 2 opposing teams, animal clans or Iron Force. Each scenario offers asymmetrical objectives that each side needs to fulfill in order to win. Scenarios involve players trying to control certain areas of the game board, destroy opposing team mechs, collect certain objects, and much, much more. The game ends immediately when one team has achieved the winning conditions as stated on the scenario card, ruling Nemus for all eternity, or at least until the next time you play. So if you're familiar with Ice Cool, this is in the same universe, so to say. It is the next chapter. You are still flicking pieces, but in this version of the game, you have way more options. You have special cards that give you special abilities. You have missions that you do various things on. But it is 2 teams that you're taking control of, battling it back and forth. Now, the thing is that in this version, you have still the boxes within boxes as you build out the game board, but it is multi-tiered now, 2 levels. You have a catapult to launch your pieces into that upper level. So much fun, I can't even tell you. But really the key here is to master the flick. Either you're hitting the piece on the base, moving it through archways, or maybe off to the side a little bit so you can create those hook shots through the different areas. And if you hit the piece on the top, you can potentially leap over walls when you might need it the most. And bumping into other mechs can cause damage and even knock them out of the game, at least temporarily. So there's all kinds of fun things that they have done with this version of the game that make it way more of a gamer's game. So setup and gameplay is going to be very dependent on the scenario that you choose. Now they suggest you start with establishing a network. Now each of these scenarios is going to have some nice story text on it as well, so you want to go through that. I enjoy story text very much, but the setup is going to be very different for each. In this particular one, you're going to have the same objectives between both teams. You're trying to collect a number of your markers that have been placed above the archways that you're trying to pass through, and it's really that simple, just to give you a feel of the game as you start to move into it. Now, as you progress through these different missions or scenarios, you're going to be doing very different things, and you'll start to see that the objectives for each team start to change up quite a bit, and you're doing various things to stop the other team and so forth. But I like the ones where you're knocking out the other mechs, or you're using the dice. You're trying to hit the dice through areas of the board or change their value when you hit the dice. Lots of different things that you can do in these scenarios for sure, and it just leaves it open so many different things, and for you potentially to even create your own scenarios. But I really like the fact that it feels like a progression through the story as it becomes more difficult, as you try to do different things with each of the teams. You try to maneuver your mechs into the position where they can fall through the holes at the top and give you bonuses and things like that. All kinds of different varied abilities through these scenarios. I really enjoyed that aspect as you move through it. It feels like a campaign to some degree. Now, you also have power-up cards in the game. Yes, giving you all kinds of special abilities. And the distribution of these cards is based on the player count, but they do have rule-breaking abilities at times, tons of fun, like Sabotage, causing one of the mechs to take damage if they're used. Or you might get Power Bank, giving you an extra action for flicking or launching a mech, and of course, a repair kit in case you were sabotaged. And there's even portals and things like that. But these cards are going to add a lot of flavor, a lot of fun to the game, absolutely. Each team also has an activation deck, and that's the basics of your turn. You're basically drawing one of these cards, which will show you which mech you're going to be activating. And it's also indicated when the round's over when you run out of all these cards. So you'll activate that mech, and you have two main actions you can perform. Either you're flicking, trying to achieve the goals of the scenario, going through archways, knocking into dice, knocking into other players, or you can be launching from below to the upper deck. Now, that's a really fun process, and you have to be mindful because if you miss, you're going to take damage with your mech and so forth. But the thing is, you want to move them through the different areas based, again, on what you're doing in the scenario. So the activation cards are crucial, showing you which mech gets activated, and then mechs do take damage in this game. So if you flick your mech into another, that mech will take damage. You'll flip their card over, showing they have taken 1 point. And if you happen to hit them and they fly out, they'll actually take 2 points and be knocked out of the game temporarily. You'll move that piece onto their card, and when their next activation card comes up, they'll be back into the game. So they're not gone long. Lots of fun to be had there, but damage is real in this game, and there may even be specifics to a scenario that cause damage when you do certain things to the different mechs. So that gives you a feel of the basics of play. You're going to be going back and forth, trying to knock mechs out. You're trying to achieve the goals of the scenario. You've collected the different markers that you need to collect, or you've changed the dice and knocked them out. Lots of different scenarios. I really like that aspect a lot in this game. And it is fun, action-paced all the way through. And who wins? Well, again, based on the scenario, will determine that. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this is definitely a dexterity-based game. Learning how to flick your mech in the most efficient way is going to really bring about the goals and help you win the game. And it is a ton of fun. You're up off the table, moving around the board, lots of action to be had. Everyone is fully engaged in this one. And the fact is that you have those different scenarios and the different power-up cards and how the activations work really make this more of a game than perhaps Ice Cool was. But they're still both very family-friendly oriented games and just a ton of fun if you like dexterity games. So ultimately, folks, though, if it does look like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.